Good afternoon or morning to everyone, depending on where you are joining us from, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Johanna Huumpori, and I will be the host for today's session. The topic for today's webinar is how to gain effectiveness for fabrication process with STRUMIS and Tekla. You'll be hearing how to manage your fabrication process more efficiently with the help of Tekla Structures and STRUMIS by SCAD software. Before we begin, I would ask you to close all the other applications, then go to webinar. This just to ensure the quality of the webinar. If you have some problems with the audio or picture quality, please use your control panel to interact with us and we'll try to do our best to help you. I would also like to take this opportunity to remind everyone that you can ask questions using the question or chat tool on the right-hand side of the screen, and you can do this at any point of the presentation. And then, after the webinar, we'll collect and answer the questions we received. Once again, my name is Johanna Huumpori, and I'm working as a marketing manager in Tekla, and also hosting today's session. For the speakers, we have Michael Hodgson, who is technical manager for Tekla Steel customers here at Tekla, and from SCAD, we have Simon Iman and Warren Delay. Simon works as a technical director for SCAD software, and Warren is responsible for BIM Review product. Today, Mick will give an overall description how Tekla and STRUMIS integration works. Simon and Warren will then go into more details of StruMIS system and the different functionalities that SCAD software offers for use with Tekla. But before going into the presentation, just to remind you that this webinar will be about 45 minutes long and it will be recorded. You will find the recording from Tekla's web pages for webinars. That site provides a good archive for our former and coming webinars. So after this webinar, please do go and visit the website and check also the other recorded webinars you might find interesting. But now I'll give the floor to the actual presenter. So Mick, please do go ahead.
Mick Hodgson, and it's my pleasure to be here today again to do another Wednesday webinar with you guys. Today's webinar, as Johanna just explained, is about Tekla Structures and the STRUMIS software from SCAD software. Firstly, what is an MIS software? Well, MIS actually stands for Management Information System, and this term is used to describe decision support systems, resource and people management applications, project management and database retrieval applications. Today's webinar is going to be regarding STRUMIS from SCAD, and STRUMIS is a specialized software, specialized MS software for structural steel fabricators and engineers. Who are SCAD software? I'm sure a lot of people listening to this webinar will know SCAD. They've been around with us a long time. They've been established in 1986. Based in the UK with offices worldwide, from the USA all the way through to the Middle East, Australia, so I'm sure you've come across them in many parts of the world. And they're a developer of STRUMIS, which again is, as we said earlier, is specifically for structural steel and BIM sectors. STRUMIS itself is a steel fabrication management information and production software. It's used by engineering fabrication companies who are looking to implement a system to manage their businesses more effectively. So this means managing your estimating, your tendering, workshop management, invoicing, procurement, production, everything to do with the project life cycle within the workshop and the drawing office and engineering office. Between Tekla and STRUMIS, we have BIM Review. BIM Review is by SCAD as well, and it's a 3D model of the project. What we do in Tekla is we export the data out, it automatically creates this 3D model, and then this sits as the hub between Tekla and STRUMIS, and any sort of data that passes flows through this software to STRUMIS, and any data from STRUMIS flows back towards Tekla as well. So that's the central hub point of this our project workflow. So how do we pass the information from Tekla to STRUMIS? Quite a simple procedure. ASCAD have developed a set of extensions which we simply install within Tekla. We then export the data out. It creates the BIM review model and data, which then you pass through to the STRUMIS modules. Okay, the STRUMIS modules are available from ASCAD directly, or actually from our Tekla warehouse. Simply download them, install them. Available version 21, or the latest versions that are already there. So what we do, install the extensions, export it out, create the BIM review model. Let me show you what we need to go through in Tekla itself. It's quite a simple procedure. We've got our typical Tekla model. We've got the extensions to export to STRUMIS. We click on the export, give it the name of the file or database we're going to create, attach the drawings, attach the NC files, click OK. It then creates a package which will go to BIM review and onto STRUMIS. So simple procedure. Excuse me. So one thing to remember before we export the data is just ensure that the NC data has been created, and of course your drawings are created as well. It will export those out as part of the package. Okay, so STRUMIS itself. I'm not going to go into this in too much detail because our partner, Mr. Warren DeLay from ASCAD, is going to explain this in much more detail than I can. So just quickly running through the modules in STRUMIS. What we do, of course, you've just seen there, is we import the model from Tekla. It explains there as well how we create a BIM review model, three-dimensional model, which then links the STRUMIS to Tekla. Once it's in STRUMIS, then we've got the different modules from inquiries and estimate all the way through to document management. A very brief look at this, as explained. Warren can explain this in much more detail than I can. So we've got a module for inquiries and estimating where you can create initial inquiries and quotations. And again, this is all based on the data that's just come through from the Tekla model. So all the sections, parts, connections, bolts, all that information comes through. Sales and customers, of course, we can create sales orders, delivery notes, invoices, and the data it can share with your project partners. Items and inventory, so store your sort of libraries of section data. So this, and again, when you import from Tekla, it creates that recognized section data, so it corresponds with STRUMIS. You can manage all your steel items, but not only that, all your non-steel items as well, and so you review your inventory transactions. Purchasing and supplying, which is the main part for us, obviously in structural steel, or one of the main parts, is where we can do this sort of invoicing and receipts and purchase orders, manage your suppliers and stockists, who's got the best options for purchasing, that kind of thing, and create purchasing reports for distribution. Contracts management, obviously manage your piece of projects and contracts, nice wizards to sort of keep on control of these, make it much easier for you. QS analysis and contract management reports. Production, of course, bar nesting, plate nesting, creating workflow through your factory, how pieces are going to go, so creating workflow, even down to managing employee timesheets, long range detailed production plans. So see here very detailed what we can do with the software as regards for what's coming from the Tekla model. The final part of the puzzle, or one of the final parts then, of course, is document management. So all the documents and drawings that are created, we can manage and store them within STRUMIS, and then create RFIs, transmittals, and store all those in a central database as well, project-based. And then, of course, the very final part is the interface with Tekla. Whatever is happening in STRUMIS, so what's been estimated, what's been purchased, what's going in production, all the information can then be passed back into the Tekla model, so you can very easily color code the model to see the status of exactly where everything is in production, in purchasing, that kind of thing. Even you can click on individual items and see exactly what the status of that particular item is. As I explained, Warren can go into this in much more detail than what I can do. So at that point, I will hand you back to Joanna, or we'll hand you on to Warren, obviously. But thank you for your interest, and I'll hand you back to Joanna. Thank you.
Thank you, Mick. That was a good overview about what is MIS system, how STRUMIS and Tekla are integrated, and what can be done with the softwares. At this point, I would like to remind the audience that if you have any questions, please use the question and chat dialog box to write those to us. Okay, I think that now we have managed to change the slide set. So I'll hand over to the ASCAD guys, Simon and Warren, who will give into STRUMIS into a bit more detail.
Thanks, Mick, and good morning and good afternoon to everyone attending today. Just a quick word on today's presenters just before we get started. So first of all, you'll be hearing from Simon Inman, who's the Technical Director here at ASCAD Software. And Simon's just going to be giving us a bit of an insight into the STRUMIS MIS system and just showing us how that system works. And also you'll be hearing from myself, Warren Delay. I'm the BIM Review Product Manager here at ASCAD Software, and I'll be talking about the different functionalities that ASCAD Software offer for use with the Tekla software.
Thank you, Warren. Now we'll move on to the STRUMIS element of this presentation and really run through some of the benefits and features within the software itself. Just before I start importing information from Tekla into STRUMIS, what we'll just run through is just some of the system benefits and features. So the application is .NET with Microsoft SQL backend, open architecture, multi-language. We're covering over 20 languages from around the world, and also multi-facility, multi-currency. The architecture, we have integration platform which allows access to ERP systems, accounting packages, as well as open transactions and open architecture for plugin of multiple nesting engines and other applications at that point. Okay, so we're just going to move into the estimating element at this point. We can log information in here attaining to each inquiry or request bid at this stage so that we can check status and populate information attaining to each at this point. At this stage we're just going to say import estimate. As with most tasks within STRUMIS, around about 75–80% can be driven by the wizard. Again, this helps with the clarity of data and lack of error by the user. So we just go through and we basically give the information. We can give facility, again for the multi-facility, and a template that we're using at this stage. We'll choose the interface type and the file, and basically from there we will import our estimate, cross-referencing items at this stage to give us a populated estimate at this point. This can then be linked to the model. To view this, we're not going to open it at this point, but we can see the tally at this stage along with all of our various items that we've taken off, including the parameter-based estimate, labor, and fitting usage library. The material costs are populated too. We can also do obviously manual takeoff to supplement anything that we've bought in, and again additional rates at this point covering that of erection, painting, and so on. Anything that we've not taken within the initial estimate takeoff, raw material and labor. Okay, the next area we'll talk about just briefly is the customer management and also sales orders. Now, sales orders covers a multitude of items. It can be inventory, over-the-counter sales, but also that of invoicing, milestone payments from within the contracts themselves, the projects, and matching that up as either per assembly, unit pricing, or as a lump sum basis. The next area we'll cover is items and inventory. Items is covered with a full worldwide catalogue of both structural and piping elements, so all materials are covered within there. You can also add additional items too. With inventory itself, again, covers all inventory, whether that is within our own plants, own facilities. Again, the multi-facility comes in here, but we can see items at multiple levels. So we see the raw material, including plate with true shape, the actual detail, the prep at this stage as well, with full traceability at this point as well. CE marking is covered, as well as including test certificates within the inventory environment, and also the assemblies too. But this is unique, covering our subcontractors and also our actual erection sites as well, whether they be on-site or off-site locations. Okay, purchasing we can cover as regards to management of our suppliers. Within purchasing, many different options within here of ordering just materials straight out, using the libraries for quick, concise selection of items. Receipts, purchase invoicing is also covered in here, but we can just go to the purchase order search grid. This will show us what we've got open, closed and outstanding very quickly at this stage. But just going to the contract wizard, we show the items that are here as a BOM to order. If I just expand this, we can see the likes of the cutting plans and everything for materials we've got covered. Again, nice intuitive feature here showing the items, the cutting plan and the traceability comes through at this point too. STRUMIS has a pluggable architecture to allow multiple nesting engines per facility or user to be able to be used. As you can see on the screen, we've got various partners that we integrate with the bidirectional link of true shape inventory from the nesting engine and return and nest and offcuts at this time. So just going into the wizard itself, we can select items at this point, and if I just expand, we can see the filtering and the grid functions working here to good effect of selected items. We can select our pieces, and again the various options here giving us true tracking and alignment with our advanced BOM or our prelim listing and the selection. Obviously within this also EDI is covered within our own functionality, and we're also aligned and working with the AISC with the Steel XML. Ultimately this aligns to the purchase order itself, and if I just very quickly open a report and show this. We're now going to cover the elements relating to project or contract management at this stage. So first of all, we'll look at the headlines attaining to the contract, so the headers, customer details, the linking directly to the inquiry or request a bid and estimate, dates, the invoice milestones, the sequencing, site delivery details, and also third-party accessibility to the actual project itself. Obviously we cover advanced and detailed listing. Here we can see the detailed listing that's been brought in directly from the BSWX, and here we can highlight various details at this point, such as the item within or the member within the 3D environment from the BSWX, the relevant drawings. So again, you can see the drawing management status flash up at that stage, and also the NC details as well. So we can edit the NC at this point, and there we can see the NC, and obviously linking directly there the project management status. These details also go into the unit pricing, the QS analysis, the budgets, and so forth. Okay, we're now within the production element of STRUMIS. So this is effectively the planning of work and also the execution of work within each plant facility. So from this point we start off by planning the actual loads and the effective dates to each at this point in time. So you can see here our various load dates at this point. This then is fed within to the detailed plan once we've completed the contract work orders, the detailed analysis and allocation of time at this point. So again, here we can see the resource loading and of the overall schedule at this point in time. These items are then moved forward within production control, console, which is our touchscreen environment, and also barcoding or workstation feedback. And that combines in the overall combination within the BIM review. So here we can see the BIM review with the highlighted progress to date with the various milestones highlighted down this side. Document management is a repository of documents, whether being detailed drawings, NC data, BIM reviews, client's drawings, arrangement, engineers, architects' drawings, and so forth. So at this point, we can generate transmittals, RFIs from within this environment and obviously show throughout the STRUMIS environment the documents that are there and the status, transmittals, and anything attending to them. I'm now going to hand over to Warren, who's going to go through in detail the BIM review functionality with Tekla.
Thanks, Simon. So what I'm going to do now is just go through the functionalities that AceCAD software offer for use in Tekla. So these can be grouped into two areas, STRUMIS and BIM Review. So if we look at the STRUMIS ones first, the first one that we have is STRUMIS settings. Now this basically allows the user to set up a link between a Tekla model and a STRUMIS contract. This can be done over a local area network or over the internet, and that just establishes a link between those two entities. Once that's been done, we can start to exchange some information between the two systems. So information which is current within the STRUMIS system can be inquired upon from within Tekla environment. So things like production statuses, purchasing information, QS information, document statuses, those types of information can be inquired upon from within Tekla using the latest STRUMIS information. We also have the STRUMIS Color by Attribute tool. Now this basically allows you to color entities within the Tekla environment according to their STRUMIS values. So again, if we just use the example of production statuses, as we move items through the production controls module in STRUMIS, we can inquire upon those statuses from within Tekla and we can color code those accordingly. So for instance, all of the items at the hole making stage would be red, all of the items at the cutting stage would be green, etc. And we also have the STRUMIS Quick Enquire tool as well. Now what this allows the Tekla user to do is create a custom enquiry of STRUMIS information. So if you're a purchaser, you can tailor a quick enquiry to only give you the information which is regarding purchasing from within STRUMIS. So you just get the information that's most relevant to you at that time. Moving on to the BIM Review set of commands, we have the BIM Review Export. Now this basically allows you, once you've finished detailing your model within Tekla, you can create an export from within the Tekla model via the BSWX format, and then you can open that up inside BIM Review and subsequently import that into STRUMIS. You can do this for the entire model, or you can just do it for a selection of parts. We also have the BIM Review Imports feature as well. Now what this allows you to do is, from within BIM Review, you can add your own custom attribute information, so things like paint specifications, delivery sequencing, maintenance scheduling, that type of thing, and then you can import that data back into the Tekla model. Okay, so we're within the Tekla Structures environment now, and we're going to start to take a look at the STRUMIS functionality that we discussed earlier. So once you've installed the AceCAD range of functionality, I'll talk you through how you do that later on in the presentation, you'll just see these arrangement of icons in the top menu at the top. So we're going to look at the STRUMIS ones first. So if I just click on the STRUMIS settings button here, this is the environment where we establish the link between the Tekla model and the STRUMIS contract of our choice. So we have two different methods of making that link. So we have over a local area network here, so we just populate the details here, including details of the STRUMIS database that we're using, and also SQL usernames and passwords. And we could also, if we chose to, do it over an XML web service. So again, we have details here that we populate, and also if we wish to use a proxy, we can also use that, and also details of usernames and passwords and domains, etc. Once we've done that, we can choose the contract that we want to link to. So you just see a little drop down at the bottom here, and you can just pick the STRUMIS contract that you want to link to. Once that's done, you select OK, and the link is then made between the Tekla model and the STRUMIS contract. Okay, so now that the link has been formed between the Tekla model and the STRUMIS contract, we can start to inquire upon STRUMIS information from within the Tekla environment. So what I'm going to do is just click on this STRUMIS status button here, and that's going to go ahead and retrieve all of the latest STRUMIS information and bring it into the Tekla environment. So what I can then do is click on some pieces from within Tekla and select the user defines attributes option. And what we actually have within this environment is 4 tabs of information which are specific for STRUMIS, and we can just see that via the little icon in the bottom left. So we have progress information which relates to the production status module within STRUMIS. So we can just see here the current production stage, the date that the piece has been cut. We also have a QS tab with all the latest QS information from STRUMIS. Material and purchasing details, which includes things like purchase order numbers, supplier names, location, heat referencing, also CE marking information there as well. And we also have the document management information as well. So we have just the document status for that particular item there. Now, what I'm going to do just to show you that all of this information is live, and as the changes are made in STRUMIS, this is reflected in Tekla also. So what I'm going to do is just go back to the progress tab, and we're just going to focus on this current production process value here, which is currently set to hole making. So what I'm going to do is just navigate into STRUMIS very quickly. So this is the corresponding contract to the Tekla model that we've just seen, and if I just highlight this particular piece, okay, so we can just see that piece within the BIM review system which is incorporated into STRUMIS there, so we know we're working on the right piece. And what I'm going to do is just progress this onto the next stage. So I'm just going to move these quantities forward, and we're just going to move that to the complete stage, which is what we can just see there. So if I just select move, and if I navigate to the complete stage, we should just be able to see within here that piece that we've just progressed, and there it is. Okay, so if I just navigate back into Tekla now, and what I'm going to do is just update that again just by selecting the STRUMIS status button. And you can just see now that within that grid, that information has been updated, so the current production process is now set to complete. I've just shown you using that particular example, but this works with any attributes that you can see within the STRUMIS environment in Tekla. So the next tool that we're going to take a look at is the STRUMIS Color by Attribute option. And as I said earlier, what this allows us to do is color code the model based on attribute information which is coming over from STRUMIS. So for instance, if we have different production stages, we can see this visually on screen without having to make manual inquiries on pieces. So what I'm going to do first of all is just select the STRUMIS Color by Attribute option in the top menu here. And it then presents me with a small dialog where I can choose from a set of available options via this the date cut, etc. And if I select one of these, what the system is actually going to do is look at all of the values for that particular attribute within STRUMIS and then assign those values a colour within the Tekla Structures model. So just to keep things simple, I'm just going to select the current production process of parts. So what the system is now doing, it's retrieving all of that information from within inside STRUMIS and presenting that via colours within the Tekla model. So you can just see here that we have 3 colours relevant to hole making, profile cutting and cutting. And you can just see that within the model we can see the pieces which corresponds to those colours there. So if I just open up that dialog again, you can see that these pieces are at the hole making stage. So what I'm going to do now is just make a change within STRUMIS and show you how that change is reflected within the Tekla Structures model. So if I just go into STRUMIS very quickly here and navigate to the hole making stage, what I'm going to do is just select some items to be progressed onto the final complete stage. So if I just select these items here, and I'll just move these quantities forward, you can just see there that that is the stage that we're moving them to, complete, and I'll just move those. So if I just double check that, I'll just show you that within the module there. And again, we can also check this visually via the integrated BIM review system. Okay, so you can just see those pieces there. So what I'm going to do now is just navigate very quickly back into Tekla. And just by using that dialog that we had open up earlier, I'm just going to press the refresh button. That's then going to grab all of the latest information from within inside STRUMIS and bring it into the current modeling environment. Okay, so you can just see now that we have 4 colors. So we have red, green, blue and yellow, and we also have the completed stage, which is now represented as red. And again, we can just see that that change has been reflected within the model there. So the final STRUMIS commands that I just wanted to show you was the STRUMIS Quick Enquire. Now this is very closely related to the STRUMIS status option that we saw earlier. But basically what we can do with this is we can tailor the information that we want to see. So what I'm going to do first of all is select the STRUMIS Quick Enquire option, and I can then choose to create a custom inquiry. So I'll click Create Edit Inquiry and just create a new one here. Just give that a name. And what you can see on screen now is a series of options. So on the left hand side of the screen we have assembly attributes, and on the right part attributes, and I can just choose to pick the items that I want to inquire on. So if I just pick these items here, a few more, and select save, and then I'm just going to select that as my current quick inquire set, and then just pick an item from within the model, and that will just pop up there. So you can just see that we're getting the same information as we saw within the STRUMIS status, but it's more tailorable to what we want at the time. So you can just see here we've got current production process complete, on hold no. So if STRUMIS has a value for the particular attribute that we have that we chose to include as part of the inquiry, it will present it in this dialog. Obviously we've only got 3 here that have values within STRUMIS, so it's only given us that information. So it's just streamlining the information that's given us at that time. Worth noting as well that you can reuse these inquiries, so I don't have to go through that process again. Once I've done it once, I can re-select as many items as I want and inquire upon those within the current model or additional models. Okay, so looking at the BIM Review range of functionalities now, we're just going to take a quick look at the BIM Review Export option, which allows the user to make a selection of items from within the model or export the entire model via the BSWX format for use in BIM Review and then subsequently STRUMIS. So what I'm going to do first of all, just to get the process started, is just to make a selection of items from within the model. So we'll just export this corner of this portal frame here, and then I'm just going to select the BIM Review Export option. That will then load a dialog where I can first of all define the output path. So I'm just going to name this here. So let's save. We can also include all of the drawings and NC with the model. So what I would do is I would just navigate down to the location of any drawings and NC data that I'd created for the model and just specify that. We can also choose to include any Gantt charts which have been created with the model as well. We also have this nice little feature here which basically allows the mapping of defined custom attributes which have been added to the model. So if you have an attribute which has been added within Tekla, we can make sure that that attribute is correctly mapped within STRUMIS. So basically what we can do here is something's called variation number, for example, in Tekla. We can just make sure that that is mapped to the VO number as it's called inside STRUMIS. We also have the facility within here to save any exports as templates. So if you want to choose to attach the drawing files or attach the NC, you can set up a template so that the next time you run the command, then the drawings and NC will automatically be included as part of the export. So I'll select OK and just run the export. So it's just asking me if I want to perform full numbering, so I'll say no to that. And then it's going to go ahead and create the model in the location which we've just specified. Okay, so the export's been completed. And what I can then do is locate the model And there we can see the model within the Tekla model file. So I'll just double click on that to open it up in BIM Review. And there we have the created model as per the selection that we made and the template that we selected upon the export from Tekla. So what we can do at this point is then we can feed that model into STRUMIS, and we can do all of the work that Simon described earlier in his presentation. So while we have this model now, what I'm going to do is begin the process of showing you the BIM Review import feature, which basically allows users to add attribute information within the BIM Review environment and then import those added attributes into the Tekla environment. So what I'm going to do first of all is create an attribute. So if I just create something basic here, like delivery date. And then I can select a group of items to apply a value for that created attribute for. So I'll just add an attribute to these items for the delivery date attribute we just created. Okay, so we've now assigned a value to those items for that attribute. I'm then going to save the changes and just overwrite the old model that we created. And then if I just navigate into the corresponding Tekla model and select the BIM Review import option, I can then locate the file that we just added the data to and select OK. And you can just see that the import's been completed there. So what I can then do is inquire upon one of the parts that we added the data to within BIM Review, and we can see the data that's come through. So if I just inquire on this corner column here and navigate down, you can just see at the bottom there is the information that we added within BIM Review, and it's now being passed over into the corresponding Tekla model. Okay, so how can you go about actually getting the AceCAD Tekla functionality? So there are three main ways. The first way is part of the free BIM Review trial. So if you navigate to www.bim-review.com, you can actually download a free 14-day trial of the full version of BIM Review. And when you install that software, there's actually a tick box that you can just tick depending on the version of Tekla that you're using. We are compatible back to version 16 right up to version 21. And it will just install that functionality for you into your version of Tekla. We also have it as an independent download as well, so you don't have to download BIM Review if you don't want to. You can just download that functionality as a standalone item, but in a similar way it will install the functionality into the version of Tekla that you are using, whether that be from version 16 all the way up to 21. And the third way of getting hold of that functionality is just through the new Tekla warehouse facility, which Mick mentioned earlier in the presentation. So just to quickly summarize STRUMIS, easy implementation means that users can take advantage of STRUMIS's advanced features quickly. Synergy between STRUMIS modules enables increased productivity on a large scale. STRUMIS enables time and cost savings in all areas of your steelwork business. Real-time traceability provides STRUMIS users with a complete range of live project information. Advanced material usage tools enable STRUMIS users to maximize their material efficiencies. Streamlined process workflows mean faster project completion. And finally, just to summarize the AceCAD Tekla functionality, advanced suite of functionalities developed by AceCAD allowing market-leading links between Tekla Structures and STRUMIS. Retrieve real-time STRUMIS project data directly from within the Tekla Structures environment. Easy visualization of STRUMIS project data within the Tekla model via the Color by Attribute tool. Export models from the Tekla Structures environment for use in BIM Review and STRUMIS. Simple import of custom attribute data into the Tekla Structures model, which has been added in BIM Review. So that brings us to an end of today's webinar. Thank you for attending, and also thank you to Mick and the team at Tekla for allowing us to present with them today. If you do have any requirement for any additional information, please feel free to visit the BIM Review and STRUMIS websites. Details of those are on screen at the moment. And I'll pass you back over to the Tekla team now, who will also tell you how to ask any questions about anything that you've seen on screen today. So again, thanks for your time, and we hope to hear from you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Simon and Warren. There was a good info about the STRUMIS and other ASCAD software. I hope you got good understanding about the benefits and features as well as how to gain most when using both Tekla and ASCAD. So I think we already got a couple of questions during the presentation, but if you still have a question on your mind, please use the question and chat dialog box to send those to us, and we'll get back to all the questions asked later on by email. Okay, I'm very glad that you joined us today, and I would like to say thank you for that. Our next webinar will be a Wednesday webinar about helping with model-based supply chain management with Tekla Warehouse. That webinar will be held on 3rd of June, and more detailed info about that can be found from tekla.com, and you can actually already register to the next webinar. That was all. Once again, thank you for attending, and have a nice day.